The Union forever, hurrah, boys, hurrah. Down with the traitors and up with the star. Well, hello there, my friends, and welcome to one of the most pivotal places in American history. Looks a little different from Kansas City, where we just flew in from. We're back in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I just parked here and I've been walking around the middle of the Gettysburg Battlefield. Off there in the distance is the equestrian statue of Robert E. Lee, and on July 3rd, 1863, Confederate troops would have been marching across these fields towards the Union lines, reaching the area up there on the crest of the hill with all those monuments, the high water mark of the Confederacy, the moment where Pickett's charge was turned back. Some people call it the turning point of the Civil War. There was a lot of death and destruction out here in these very fields. And America, nay, the world, has never forgotten it. There are beautiful monuments and memorials all over the Gettysburg Battlefield, all paid for and placed here usually by the men who actually participated in the battle after the fact. There are position markers and old cannons, and driving around the battlefield, you can see some of the old original buildings that were here in the line of fire, some of the old farms and barns. There are trails everywhere and glorious woods and fields to wander. I really love the Gettysburg Battlefield. But I'm not actually in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania to experience just the battlefield. I came here for a very interesting reason. Last year when I was out here in Gettysburg, the president of Gettysburg history, Andrew Dalton, who gave us a tour of the Gettysburg Beyond the Battle Museum, extended an invitation to me for a very special event, which begins tomorrow up yonder in the town of Gettysburg, one of my favorite towns in America. So as if I needed any excuse to come back here to Gettysburg, I'm back once again. I'll tell you about that special event in just a little bit. But first, while I have a chance, while my wife is still getting up, getting ready for the day, I'm gonna do a little wandering around on the battlefield out here in Gettysburg. I'll tell you what, the Civil War is something that's kind of hard to get into. A lot of moving pieces to the Civil War, or any individual battle, right? Positions, troop movements. Even when you come out to places like this and see monuments and see markers where the men were standing during the battle, and you wrap your head around individual battles, you're thinking, well, what's the broader significance in the war itself? It's a lot to learn, a lot to digest, especially since each battlefield has so many thousands and thousands of individual stories that took place during the days of fighting so many men, so much history. It's just a lot. But now that's exactly what I like about it. It's such a deep rabbit hole. You can never learn or discover it all. Like, I've made several videos out here in Gettysburg, including one that focused on Pickett's charge, and this, the high water mark of the rebellion. General Lee's troops marched across those fields up to the Union lines up here, and this is where General Longstreet's assault was repulsed. Pickett's charge came to nothing. And I've also been out here filming on the heights behind me, Little Round Top, which some historians have referred to as the turning point of the Civil War itself, up there on those hills. Last year I was out here doing a video with historian Gary Edelman in Devil's Den over there, a very rocky scene of destruction just at the foot of Little Round Top over yonder. We've been in the museums, we've wandered through the town, and I haven't even begun to scratch the surface of all the history here in Gettysburg. This is awesome, standing out here again, looking over at that statue of Robert E. Lee, the Virginia Memorial, and thinking that those troops had to cross a mile of open fields, trying to come together in a wedge, aiming for this little clump of trees, or, well, the little clump of trees that was actually here at the time. Historians will argue forever whether or not they actually had a chance to pierce the Union lines and continue the Confederate invasion of the Union. We'll never know what could have happened, but what did happen is that they got all the way up here to this angle of this stone wall, and then were turned back, decimated, destroyed, having to retreat on the 4th of July, which the Americans, the Union side, took as a sign from God, along with the fall of Vicksburg out in the west, that the Civil War was indeed going to turn their way, which is exactly what it did. Anyway, couldn't drive by this spot without getting out and appreciating it for just a couple of minutes at least. I just noticed you can see McDonald's from up here, which is where Allie is gonna be heading in a little bit. But before she's done with all that, before she hits me up, I got a little more time. I kind of want to take a gander at some stuff that I've never had time to stop and appreciate. Now, there was actually a big chunk of the battle that took place in the town itself, especially on the first day, there was literally some urban warfare going on out there, but all across the battlefield, even out here in the fields and farms where the main event took place, there were people living out here in all kinds of big houses, little houses, and normally all I have time for is a little glance from the car windows as I pass on to some of the more famous destinations, Devil's Den, Little Round Top. But as long as I have some time on this beautiful April morning, well actually I guess it's about noon now. And it's April 1st, by the way, but the only April Fool out here is me. I thought I'd take a little drive and try to get up close and personal with some of the things I've only seen from the car windows, which would include these buildings here. I've driven down this little lane many times on what I believe is United States Avenue, and this right here has always fascinated me. I am no Civil War expert, I am no Gary Edelman, but I believe this is called the Abraham Trostle Farm, and look right up there in the bricks of the barn and you will see a big old hole. There are a lot of places on the battlefield and in the town where you can see bullet holes or marks or cannonball holes in the buildings, sometimes even artillery shells stuck in the buildings, although most of the time they were sort of put there when they were fixing up the holes left by the actual artillery shells. That's a hole that was left right there in the Civil War. We're still pretty much in the middle of the battlefield. According to this helpful sign here, at least if I'm understanding it correctly, while the Union troops were trying to hold Cemetery Ridge, that's all that land we were just on now, where the Union troops had their strong position, Captain John Bigelow's 9th Massachusetts Battery, so some artillery, was ordered to hold this line at all hazard. And they were first-timers. They were newbies. They put their guns here in the Abraham Trostle farmyard. And so not only were they firing at Confederates, Confederates were firing back. And check this out. This is in the Gettysburg Museum of the Civil War now, apparently. An unexploded shell found inside the Trussel barn. And look at this old photo. You can actually see the hole put in the barn by Confederate artillery. Those dang rebels. Now, I'm sure in the century and a half since the actual Battle of Gettysburg itself, they've done a little brickwork here to keep this barn preserved, but there it is. Look at that hole up there. I find that absolutely fascinating. I breezed by and seen it, but never stopped and got out and really taken this close of a look. Pretty fascinating. Now, I noticed there's a little sign on there that says resident parking only. I believe some of the historic structures on the Gettysburg National Military Park battlefield do get occupied by Rangers or whoever. I was just thinking that'd be a pretty cool but pretty spooky place to reside on the battlefield itself, where so much trauma went down, especially considering that every structure on the battlefield, whether during the battle or after, would have been turned into a sort of a makeshift hospital. You would have had people being pulled into these buildings during and afterwards just to get out of the sun, if nothing else. See, each one of these places has got a story to tell about the battle, about the aftermath of the battle, about the families who lived in the houses here. And a well-versed Civil War historian or a licensed battlefield guide could probably tell us acres of stories about the Trussel House right here, not just during the battle, July 1st through 3rd, 1863, but also the aftermath, also the events leading up. And just look at the surrounding country. Gettysburg is fascinating because it's got to be one of the best preserved battlefields in the world. Just the story of its preservation as a historic military park, and of course acquiring all the land that you can now wander around and enjoy. That's a fascinating story in and of itself, much less the evolution of the battlefield as a destination for visitors. But what I was going to say is that I don't know if there's any other place like this that's absolutely massive, like acres and acres, literally miles of preserved fields and woodland and buildings and war stories and monuments and memorials. You could literally spend the rest of your life wandering around this battlefield and discover new places, new nooks and crannies, go into old soldier diaries and try to locate specific spots they refer to that still haven't been found. What other places there like this where you can kind of wander around and have all the benefits and amenities of a national park, right? Restrooms, visitor center, trails, trees, fields, brooks and streams, rocks to climb on, and have all this crazy, bloody, gnarly, insane history. Look at this little creek running by here. You could just picture, I mean, if you've got an imagination, wandering around here is epic, because you could just picture soldiers crawling down to the creek, trying to get a drink of water as they're rushing around, bullets whizzing by, shells exploding overhead. And now here we are in April. I've never been here in the springtime like this before. On a warm, sunny day, temperature's probably like in the 70s. And the cool thing is, I've never experienced Gettysburg like this, when there still really aren't that many leaves on the trees. In fact, they're just starting to bud out. Can you see that? So you can actually see a much greater distance than you can in the summer on the anniversaries of the battles themselves. Anyway, I wish I knew more about the Trostle House. To be fair, I wish I knew more about everything. But it's one spot I've never really been up this close to. Every time I see a brick wall in Gettysburg that looks old, I'm always looking out to see if I can see bullet damage. But this thing's so scarred up, I wouldn't even know. Look at this, I love all these old fences, the trails, a little bridge over the creek down there. Miles and miles worth of walking and exploring you can do. I can hear frogs down in the creek. This is incredible. For a kid from Anaheim, California that grew up in the city next to Disneyland, coming out here feels glorious. I feel pretty jealous of whoever the resident is of the Trostle House right there, because it must be absolutely glorious, especially in the summer, on those evenings with billions of fireflies. The park closed at sundown, so you'd have this all to yourself. Beautiful. Now, I could be wrong about this, but I believe the Abraham Trostle Farm over here was the headquarters of Union General Dan Sickles, and I think he was standing near this barn when a cannonball hit his leg. Dan Sickles later had a funeral just for the leg, by the way. And there are photos of this farm with just tons and tons of dead artillery horses all over the place. The crazy thing is, when the Army left, they left a lot of those dead horses and haphazardly buried bodies all over the place, so there was quite a mess to clean up afterwards. 100 dead horses across the farm, at least 16 dead horses in the yard over here. I believe the family fled, like right in the middle of the fight, and this is one of the places where they literally left food on the dining room table as they fled. And like many others in Gettysburg, they were not paid for damage done to their property by the rebels. Eventually, the farm was sold to the government in 1899, I think, and it's been part of preserving the battlefield ever since. I don't know exactly where Sickles' leg was blown off. See, Civil War history sounds all dry and dusty and boring until you realize it's all about people's legs being blown off and funerals for a leg and the whole thing. But it was somewhere near here. I don't know if there's a marker specifically to the leg, but there should be. See, that's why you need a licensed battlefield guide, or when you can get them, snag Gary Edelman. If you didn't see it, go back and watch my Devil's Den episode with Gary. I feel like Gary knows everything there is to know about the Civil War. They could pull him in on Pawn Stars, right? Like, I got a buddy who knows everything there is to know about Gettysburg. I'll give you 20 bucks for Sickles' leg. All right, we're just going a little further up this same road over here. The cool part is there is an audio tour, like an auto audio tour you can take yourself. Obviously, there's pamphlets, there's books. You can take tours on horseback. You can take bus tours out here, bicycle tours. You can walk if you got sturdy legs, or do what these guys are doing, cruise around on some motorcycles out here. There's a lot of ways to experience the Gettysburg battlefield. Now look at this, here's another old farmhouse. This would be the G. Weikert House. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's one of those things that you read in stories about the battle, but you never have to actually say or hear pronounced. It's the same situation over here where there's little signs saying it's a private residence. So I don't know if they're park rangers or who gets to live in these, but that's so awesome. Dude, George Weikert's farm down here is a mile south of the town of Gettysburg. You can actually see Little and Big Round Top over there where there was fighting during the battle. So the battle lines stretched for well over a mile south of the town. That's not even including what's north of the town. These were massive armies. This was a massive battle. This is another place where the family had to flee because all of a sudden they were in the middle of one of the biggest battles of the Civil War. According to tradition, 6 men died in the parlor because it was turned into a makeshift field hospital during and after the battle. Obviously, it's undergone preservation work, but I believe this is the original house that was here in 1863, and if I'm remembering correctly, was purchased by veterans of the battle, I think from, I don't even want to say, but I think from New Jersey. I really hope I'm not getting that wrong. So you see, veteran organizations would come and purchase different properties that they actually fought and their fellow comrades were wounded and died on, leading to that patchwork quilt that came together nowadays as the Gettysburg National Military Historic Park, National Military, something like that. There's a lot of words in the title. So for shorthand, if I say Gettysburg National Park, just know that I mean National Military Park or whatever. This is another one I've just never stopped and got out and got up close to it. Gosh, is it gorgeous. And when the trees don't have leaves on them like this, you can see right up to the top of Little Round Top up there. You can see all around the battlefield. I can see the Pennsylvania Monument back over there, near to the high water mark of the rebellion we were talking about earlier. Once again, look across the road there. You can see all kinds of trails here, bike trails, walking trails, horse trails. And up on the heights over there, you can actually see a monument I've never noticed before because it's just surrounded by trees most of the time. Just up there hidden on Sedgwick Avenue. I'm sure an expert would know exactly what that was without going over to look closer. It's kind of at the end of the one-way road coming down from the base of Little Round Top. It's interesting. Now, I grant you, if you're used to seeing my episodes on Route 66 or at Disneyland or Disney World or somewhere, you're probably thinking, what? I don't understand any of this. I know I'm not exactly giving you a big overview of the Gettysburg Battle, but for those that are not familiar at all, basically in 1863, Robert E. Lee had the brilliant idea of invading the North, right? We'll take the fight up to the Yankees. Maybe that will get the Union dispirited. They'll quit fighting us, they'll sue for peace. No one really intended to fight in and around Gettysburg, but this is where all the roads in the area converged. The two armies quite literally ran into each other accidentally up here, and the largest battle of the Civil War was duked out on this land. And like I kind of mentioned, Robert E. Lee's gambit of sending all his troops across a mile of open field did not work. This is where the rebellion was pushed back to the south, and the Union was eventually saved. So in the Eastern Theater over here, this is kind of the turning point of the Civil War. But at the very same time, Ulysses S. Grant in the West was breaking through at Vicksburg, capturing Vicksburg and opening up the Mississippi River. And so in two theaters, the rebels were being defeated. There was still a while to go as far as the war was concerned, but this is one of the big turning points in American history here at Gettysburg. And if you want a primer, there's tons of documentaries, but I think the best thing is one of the episodes of Ken Burns' Civil War series that was on PBS. And actually, I believe Ken Burns is actually, I know Ken Burns is in town right now in Gettysburg, so maybe we'll get to see him, but more on that later. All right, Allie's still not ready, so I get to do one more thing that I really want to do, and that is drive all the way back around. A lot of one-way roads on the Gettysburg Battlefield, a lot of loops to drive through and get up on Little Round Top itself. It's cool because back to that imagination thing I was talking about earlier, the more you learn about a battlefield like this, the more when you drive around you can kind of paint the scene with soldiers and cannon fire, and it just makes the landscape come alive. Wow, so to the right there, that's Round Top, or Big Round Top. Little Round Top is just over there to the left. I can't believe how clear it looks from down here with all the trees like this. You can see why I want to get up there today. Side note, I've seen dozens and dozens of monuments and markers scattered around kind of deep back off the road in the woods that I've never seen before. Definitely highlights the benefit of coming here during all different seasons of the year. There's a lot hiding out here, a lot of history. Okay, here we are. The base of Little Round Top, the crack between Big and Little Round Top. You had the rebels up on Big Round Top and the Union soldiers on Little Round Top. And so this, of course, was sort of the battle line right here. This is where the Union soldiers had to defend the extreme left of their line. Joshua Chamberlain and his Maine men from Maine, the 20th Maine, were protecting this very little hill right here where the Confederate soldiers were charging up. This is kind of the big pivotal scene in the movie Gettysburg, if you ever saw that. This is where they literally had to fix bayonets because they were running out of ammo and charge down on the Confederate soldiers that were making their way up this hill. It's actually where I met Gary Edelman too, if you guys know who that is, because I had never been to this 20th Maine area until I broke down. My van was broken down a couple years ago, and I was stuck in Gettysburg for a few days. During the anniversary of the battle, the story's more complicated than that, but I'm simplifying. And I ran into my favorite Civil War historian right up here. Look, we've got some fallen trees back here. Whenever I see these on the battlefield, I just think, how many trees were blown up by artillery during the battle itself? You probably would have seen a lot of scenes like that. Yeah, I think these walls were built up in successive days when they were holding the position after the main fighting. They had just got here when the fighting happened. So I imagine they were crouching behind every log and tree they could find. And then, of course, the park has built up these walls, too, over the years, I imagine. Anyway, we're down on the left side of Little Round Top. I want to go up and see the view. Then we'll go get Allie. Then we'll go into town and see what trouble we can get up to there. All right, came up to the parking area, the newly refurbished parking area on the newly refurbished Little Round Top. And look at that, you can see down off the back of it. I've never been able to see through these trees. This is incredible. And look at all these rocks. We all know the rocky parts of the battlefield are the fun parts, right? Kids get to climb around and have a good time. Dude, and here we go. There's a licensed battlefield guide right there, using this epic view to describe the events of the battle, using the memorials down there as sort of guideposts. This is the most of the battlefield I've ever been able to see. Wow. Dude, this is insane. Always love seeing that statue of Gouverneur Kemble Warren, the Union general who climbed up here and noticed the Confederates moving around the Union left, about to outflank them, who called in for backup, saved the line up here, saved a Little Round Top. Astounding. An absolutely astounding view. There's Devil's Den down there, that little rocky pit. A lot of carnage and fighting down here in the Valley of Death as well. Very well named, and also all up and down the face of this hill. Soldiers charging up the hill, down the hill, being blown to smithereens. Pretty windy up here right now, but this is just insane. Also, in addition to having a pretty view of the battlefield, you also have a good view of the beaver pond down there. The beavers have been driving some of the history nerds in Gettysburg absolutely crazy. Look at all these vultures flying around up here, because they are flooding the landscape down there, threatening to flood the roads in the park. There's a big controversy. Should they be removed? Should they not be removed? Relocated? The beavers are causing quite a stir. That's amazing. Look at these freaking vultures, or buzzards, whatever they are, flying around up here. There's no more dead horses and soldiers for you guys. Calm down. This is awesome. All right, just having a moment up here. Then we're gonna cruise back into town, catch up with my wife. This is epic, man. Freaking Gettysburg. Wonder if I could get closer to those beaver ponds. Oh yeah, you could see some of the flooding from the bottom. Part of it's supposed to be a lake, part of it's, you know, dammed up on purpose. But apparently the beavers have been wreaking havoc down here. I don't know if this is beaver havoc or not. I'm looking for the beaver dam. I don't see it. I don't know a lot about beavers, but I'd like to see one. Again, look at that. Look at that view with no leaves on the trees. Awesome. There's a lot of mud over here. Maybe the beavers have already been removed. It definitely looks like the water got up pretty high here pretty recently. Interesting. Yeah, I can see where that would be a problem. If you flooded it up too much down here, you'd lose the whole parking lot for Devil's Den. What are these? Pumping out the beaver water? I don't know. Anyway, I'm getting lost in the weeds here. Time to head back into town, in to Gettysburg proper. All right, I'm headed back to town now. I just have to say, though, one more time, the visibility out here right now. Epic. By the way, still plenty of houses I haven't been up close and personal with yet. Such a trip being in Kansas City, then flying to Charlotte and then Baltimore yesterday. Getting here in the middle of the night and then waking up to all of this. All right, here's the other half of why I love Gettysburg so much. You have all that wonderful, open, beautiful battlefield woods. It's almost wild out there. And then you get to the border of town and bam, instantly, the old General Pickett's Buffet, which is closed. I don't know how long that's gonna last, but you got KFC, you've got McDonald's, Lincoln Links, you got a mini golf course across the street. Named, of course, for our 16th president who came to Gettysburg to deliver the now famous Gettysburg Address. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Tourist stuff, fun pics, museums, gift shop, town battle history, Lincoln Highway history, and so much more. And once a year, very importantly, and this reveals why I'm in Gettysburg, the Gettysburg Film Festival. Now, if you're asking, like I am, how in the world do you film a film festival? My answer is, I have no idea, but I'm about to find out. It is a gathering of historians, history enthusiasts, filmmakers, sometimes actors. That is the reason that Ken Burns will almost certainly be in town. He's definitely scheduled to be in town. And because it is the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence this year, the theme in Gettysburg will be the American Revolutionary War, at least for this weekend, for the film festival. Obviously, Ken Burns just finished a whole documentary on the Revolutionary War, which I have yet to get a chance to watch. Should be a little embarrassing if I run into him today. Let's hope that doesn't happen. I'm a little nervous, only because it's a little outside of my element. I don't think I've ever been to a film festival before, except for this documentary I did the artwork for once in Newport Beach, but that was all sort of independent filmmakers. This is a whole gathering of crazy amounts of historians, history enthusiasts. There will be several YouTubers out here who I have yet to meet, who are very, very into history. So some kindred spirits. Can't wait to meet everyone. Also believe they're gonna have a living history camp that, unlike normal Civil War camps here in Gettysburg, will be a Revolutionary War camp. And that, at least, I should think, should make for some pretty interesting filming if the weather holds out. It was supposed to be freezing. It's about 78 degrees out here right now. So they were wrong about that. But it was supposed to be pretty wet and drizzly out here for the next couple of days. Let's hope they're wrong about that too. Ah, look at this. Mr. Lincoln. My name is Abraham Lincoln, and I was once the guest of Mr. David Wills, who lived in this house on November 18th and 19th, 1863, when I was here for the Gettysburg Address. This is where I stayed up long into the night pondering what I was going to say on the morrow. It took me 77 minutes to make up my mind, but eventually I got there. Yes, sir, the David Wills House Museum, which is still closed. It was closed last time I came through town. Luckily, 2 times ago, I did get to film inside, which was the first and only time I had ever been in there. And this is where Lincoln spent the night, like I just said, or like he just said, before he gave the Gettysburg Address. A lot of interesting stuff went on in the house that night. It's crazy. I mean, the house certainly is large. Look at the 3 stories, not counting the attic, or I assume the basement. They had a lot of people stuffed in here. It was standing room only in town, no room at the inn, for the dedication of the National Cemetery here, of which David Wills was basically the father of that whole thing. In fact, the dedication procession, of which Abraham Lincoln was a part, formed up right in front of the house, according to the handy sign out front. Pretty interesting place, and like the battlefield, totally free to enter. When it's open, they must have been doing some restoration or something like that, because you don't even see hours out here, and it was closed, like I said, last summer. So something's going on with this. Maybe staffing shortages, who knows? And because Abraham Lincoln stayed here, this traffic circle, the square in the center of the town, known locally as the Diamond, is called Lincoln Square, I believe. And this road right here, and therefore the whole traffic circle in the Diamond, is part of the Lincoln Highway. That's the first real major highway across the country from New York to San Francisco, or vice versa. Something I have been talking about traversing the length of for at least 20 years, and I'm getting close, but not today. I've got to stay in Gettysburg today. Yes, sir, I'm stoked. I got to bring Allie here this previous summer of 2025 with me, because she fell in love with Gettysburg as well, which is why we're rolling down west on the old Lincoln Highway, on foot for the moment, because before anything else happens, I promised her that we could head on down to her favorite coffee shop here in town, President's Coffee, and grab a couple of Lincoln lattes. She's been thinking about those Lincoln lattes for like 6 months straight. I don't think I ever noticed this before. This building right here, which was here in 1863 during the battle, is called Thad's Place, or Thad's Place, home of the Thaddeus Stevens Museum. I have never ever seen that before. Bunch of information about Thaddeus Stevens out here. Probably a little too involved for me to get into today on the random, but I'm looking forward to coming back and learning a whole lot more about Thaddeus Stevens. By the way, a truck just rolled up to us, like a big old truck. The guy screamed, "Justin Scar!" I was like, I'm in trouble. Just saying hello. Never thought that would happen to me here on Chambersburg Street in Gettysburg, the old Lincoln Highway, but hey, you never know. Uh-oh, she sees a spooky building. Like a moth to a flame. Stars above, art studio, and boutique. Something witchy, this way comes. Also a Civil War building. Look for these plaques, not the ones that say nothing happened on this site. And just across the street from President's Coffee and Tea, home of the Lincoln Latte. Actually, if you're into spooky stuff, Gettysburg is the perfect town to visit because supposedly it's one of the most haunted towns in America. Although, as Tim Smith at the Adams County Museum would say, you notice that the battlefield is out there, but all the ghosts are in the town. The town is haunted, but not the battlefield. What's up with that? That's because there's no ghost hunting allowed on the battlefield. No ghost tours are allowed to proceed out there. I'm not sure I believe in ghosts as such. I don't know much about the afterlife. I've never been there, but there are about 45 different ghost tour companies here, and you can get a heck of a lot of history packed in there if you get the right one. Walking around in the twilight around Gettysburg, so it's fun for the whole family. All right, I'm keeping my wife waiting for her latte. That's always a dangerous move. Ah, yes. Once again, the peaceful vibes of President's Coffee and Tea, where the Lincoln Latte is still on the menu. It was originally supposed to be temporary, but they've still got it. They've still got it. And I love this little side room they have over here with a portrait of old George Washington, our first president. And then over here, of course, Abraham Lincoln. Celebrates both presidents. And look at the size of that couch right there. I could take a nap in here. Look at that. That's a happy girl. And in a second, she'll be a caffeinated happy girl. And I'll be safe for the rest of the day. All right, well, we got our beverages, but then I was like, oh shoot, I totally forgot that right next door is the Ragged Edge Coffee House. I promised myself next time we were here, I would get a coffee from here too. Well, there's always tomorrow. Dude, you're always drinking cold coffee. I always go for the hot, piping hot, caffeinated beverage. Adam was always giving you crap for getting iced coffee. I was like, iced coffee? Gotta get it hot. Gotta get it hot. It's my Adam impersonation not on point today. Okay, this is funny, because Allie wanted to take a picture with one of the very pretty white blossoming trees in town. But of course, what she wasn't thinking when she crossed the street to stand next to the tree is that they're full of bees. Big bees, little bees, tough bees, sissy bees, bees that climb on rocks. You look a little traumatized there.
I'm trying to like them.
You're trying to like bees? Well,
I just don't want them to go in my hair.
Okay, that seems like an irrational fear, everyone, but Allie did have a bee go in her hair and sting her head in high school when she was running the mile. So, I guess that's less irrational than it sounds on the surface. Well, just don't try to pick them up with your hand or anything, you know? Yeah. Haven't you heard that lady on Instagram? She's like, I'm over here saving the bees. Whew, this freaking coffee is so freaking hot. So is my wife. Yeah, I'm absolutely fascinated with the history of Gettysburg, particularly even after the battle. Like, look at these buildings here. This one could be very ancient with that old barn door on it. This one looks much more like a modern garage. I'm just always obsessed with layers of history, right? Old alleys and old sheds that used to be different thing, and then when the automobile era came in, what changed? True, we've got Mission San Juan Capistrano in Southern California, so we have the Spanish missions coming up in the late 1700s. So it's not that we don't have any history or any ancient history out there, it's just the quantity of it, right? It's all packed in here in southern Pennsylvania. The Revolutionary War, the Civil War, obviously the Battle of Gettysburg, Gettysburg Address, and then just eons of history of the battlefield itself and tourism here and just layers of stories to uncover. And actually, speaking of layers of history in Gettysburg, just 3 blocks up, or 4 blocks up from the coffee shop up Washington Street here was the historic black part of town where Gettysburg history is actively peeling away some layers to expose a previously neglected part of Gettysburg history. Oh my gosh, we were making our way up to the thing I wanted to show you, but look at this, Allie, look at this. It's him. It's Mr. Lincoln. Oh, Mr. Lincoln. Based on historical descriptions, I thought you'd be a lot taller, but it's a pleasure to meet you, sir. A real treat. Please stop praising and fondling me. I have business to attend to. Oh, yes, Mr. Lincoln, you've got to give the Gettysburg Address. Forgive us. You know, I don't think I've ever walked up this part of Washington Street before. I'm seeing so many buildings I've never laid eyes on in this town. Previous to this trip, I've certainly driven down it, and of course, like I said, there was a lot of street fighting in Gettysburg and a lot of shooting in and over the town. That's a Civil War era building right there, and it always pays to keep your eyes open here because you'll see craters and pockmarks from bullets and shells and sometimes patches of old bricks when the paint's not too thick. From some of the shooting that actually happened in 1863 out here. But what I'm interested in is what's happening in 2026, and here it is. We found the spot. Look at this, not the enormous bumblebee that's flying right in front of the camera. Jeez, get out of here, bumblebee. But this old log house here, which as you can see is being sort of excavated and reconstructed. You can see down into the pit there, the old foundation. This is incredible. So this is the Hopkins House, an antebellum, that means pre-Civil War, log home originally built in the 1840s by a free black family and later purchased by another free black couple, Jack and Julia Hopkins, who lived here through the Civil War. Now that was a mighty sticky situation, living in Gettysburg and being a free person of color with the Southern Army marching into town. And yes, Confederate soldiers did try to round up free black folks from the North and take them along with them back into the South. I believe Jack Hopkins, according to legend, was involved somehow with the Underground Railroad. I know he was a janitor at the Gettysburg College. It was covered over with much more modern cladding, but in 2023 it was purchased by, groups trying to preserve it. It is now being restored and expanded into the Hopkins House Museum, which will tell the story of the black residents of Gettysburg, which is pretty fascinating. It would have been terrifying enough just to be any other kind of citizen in Gettysburg with the rebel army literally invading. Then you can imagine for the free black populations of the North, wherever the Confederates went, how much more terrifying it was to be a free person and still face the threat of being dragged off into slavery at a moment's notice. I mean, that is wild. And you know what else is wild? Look at how much of the original log home survived underneath all the modern cladding that was on top of it. Gettysburg History's been doing a heck of a job posting videos as they kind of dig it out and shore it up and get ready to build the museum proper behind the house. So it's all coming together right now, and I just wanted to get eyes on it before it was a nice cleaned up museum right here. You can actually see the progress being made. I think some of the logs in the front here have had to be replaced, at least according to the friendly construction worker back here working on the house. But when I say replaced, obviously they are shaped exactly like the original logs they found underneath that were rotting away. There are still many original logs and beams in this house. They're literally still finding artifacts out here, hundreds and hundreds of artifacts. And I was asking that fellow working along the side of the house if he's found any recently. He said yesterday they found a little bottle with skull and crossbones that said poison on it. So they're still finding all kinds of stuff at the Hopkins House. You think about it, we're in 2026. So we're not far from 2040, which means this house is nearly 200 years old. So an incredibly rare piece of African American history here in Gettysburg, especially for free blacks, as they were known then, up here in Pennsylvania, and then through the Civil War. It's a very rare piece of America's story, literally being uncovered right before our eyes. I just wanted to see that, because with everything going on at the film festival, I didn't know if I'd get another chance. Oh, look, an Amazon truck. I wonder what the Hopkins family would think of that. Ordering anything from around the world to your door instantly. Boy, things sure have changed out here in Gettysburg. Something else I love about Gettysburg, and you see it more frequently in the more tightly packed ghost tour offices, but look at that upstairs in the attic window. A skeleton! Not the only one in town, but I love when they pop up. Now, remember, I was just saying, I've never really seen this building before, but I have read about it because this was the Young Ladies Seminary, the old academy building. And one of the students at this old seminary building, when the Confederate Army came through town, was Tillie Pierce, who wrote an account of it. She wrote down her story of what it was like for the rebel army to invade her town and the sick, wounded, and dying heroes that were housed in buildings like this all over town, in the hospitals. Her book is called At Gettysburg, or What a Girl Saw and Heard of the Battle, something like that. I just think that's so cool. Look at that. It literally popped up from the pages of history. That's incredible. It's funny, I've been to this town many times, more than the average Joe, I guess. And yet I barely know anything, There's so much history, so many layers. I mean, this old horse knows a lot more than me. That's how dumb I am. I ain't seen nothing, I ain't heard nothing. Yeah, we know, Mr. Horse, he ain't no snitch. Yeah, I just feel like I'm still a novice, but I always want to learn more. So I was glad when I got the invitation to come to the film festival. Like I said, any excuse to come back to Gettysburg, even though it's supposed to be rainy, and I've never tried to film a film festival. I don't know how that's gonna work out, but I'm excited to find out how it's gonna go. I love this place. I know I keep repeating myself and saying that over and over, but it's true. Look at this, you got the Gettysburg Museum of History, a free museum, a freezeum we wandered into a couple years ago. And then just like 2 houses down, you got Ron Palm's Museum of Civil War Images. Beautiful Victorian homes everywhere you look. Seems like every second house is a Civil War building. Like the Sweeney house right over here. A lot of them have modern siding on them and you wonder, what's under there? How many artifacts are under this house's basement? Then you got the Baltimore Hill Creamery, top of the hill ice cream, and the Maryland Sutler over there. Right on the hill overlooking the high school. Civil War reenacting isn't what it used to be, but you used to be able to buy all kinds of Civil War reenactor clothes in there. I'm sure you can still get some. And check it out in a second. I love stuff like this. The hand-painted signs. You know I'm a sucker for those. I love this little miniature cannon and caisson thing over here. Yeah. Got the Ladies and Gents 1863 boutique. I could finally be a real lady. Cigars, tobacco, ice cream. Ooh. So much sweet merchandise in here. Corncob pipes and cigars. Take your time browsing. Oh, look at those hats right there. I didn't know this was a haberdashery. Look at those fine dresses and all the Civil War coats you could wish for. Look at this in the middle of the building. The infamous stairs to nowhere. Oh, there's more in the back. Step down inside. Oh, ladies' brooches. You got the campaigner's corner. Civil War shoes. Got one lonely musket on the wall. Hats, tins, boots. They got it all. Look at this canteen right here. Resaca, Georgia. Someone dug that up in 1984. That is very close to Tyler Evans' house, like just down the road. I've been to Resaca many times. Take your time browsing, ain't no hurry. Yeah, I guess you've been in here for a while, huh? You've been minding the store for years and years. And you've got no idea. All right, a very nice lady came over and helped Allie buy a beautiful Victorian brooch. Look at this, look at all the ice cream cones on the sidewalk though, leading you between the buildings. A couple of good places to get ice cream in town, but we've never got ice cream from over here, so Allie's gonna get a little cone going, I think. It's definitely warm, it's like 80 degrees. We bring in the weather with us. Oh my gosh, they have so many cool flavors. Goober, Pea, Ripple, Orphan Tom, Zouave, America 250, Axle Grease, Black Powder, Apparition, Strawberry Brigade, and the Land of Cotton. So many flavors. Allie went for the Irish Brigade over here. Mint chocolate chip. There's another store we'll save for a future video, the Maryland Sutler, right next door. Bunch of reenacting supplies in there as well. Beautiful day out here in Gettysburg. A little bit of clouds, so I'm not gonna get completely burned. Yeah, a week ago it was 38 degrees out here. Just like it was supposed to be cold in Kansas City, and then it was like 100 degrees. We come here, and now it's in the 80s. I'm starting to think it's us. Yes, sir, a beautiful spring day in Gettysburg. I love that the highways all cross here still. I mean, that's why the two armies ran into each other, and still today, got all these trucks cruising around. Just gorgeous out here. I'm a little, nervous is the wrong word, but I'm a little, I'm looking forward to tomorrow, see how it goes and what happens. Hoping our good luck holds out when it comes to the weather and it doesn't get too wet. And maybe we'll do a little more Gettysburg exploring, I don't know. Whatever happens. Oh, Mary Virginia Wade. This is the birthplace of Jenny Wade right here. No wonder the side street is called Wade. Wade Avenue, Jenny Wade. A civilian girl killed during the battle by a Confederate sharpshooter. She was born right here in this building, and look at this. They have haunted and historic tours in here. More ghosts. Allie keeps stopping every 5 feet to take a picture. That's how pretty everything in this town is. You can see why I'd like to live here. Gorgeous. Anyway, we're gonna wander around for a little while, maybe go a town over to a full-size Walmart. They got an itty-bitty one in Gettysburg, but not a lot of gluten-free products in it. And I've got to supply myself with some food. I'll leave you guys here with Mr. Lincoln for now. Catch up with you later. All right, we drove over to Chambersburg to get some supplies, and I know Western Easter is this weekend, but still, I wasn't expecting to see the Lord there on a trailer in a random vacant lot. Weird. This is a cool town. I've never been over here. Look at this, Chambersburg. For the win. Look at this split around this fountain here. Ooh, I like this, Allie. It's not hard to impress us. Coming from Southern California, you know, everywhere else is like, wow, look, it looks like a movie. And it's the reverse to everybody else from everywhere else. Okay, cruising back down the Lincoln Highway into Gettysburg. put our groceries away, see if we get any kind of golden hour at all to go back out on the battlefield before eventide, which is fancy Renaissance fair speech for night. See what I did there? Eventide. It's a really long clip. All right, rolling back into Gettysburg along US 30 here. Before we get back into town, just wanted to say goodbye to the sunlight, the last little patch of light in the sky over there. Not quite sunset, but close enough. As you can see, the rain is coming. The storm. Seemed like a good chance though, since everybody's running for cover, to come out here west of town, as long as we were rolling through this area anyways. And you can see Seminary Ridge over there. You can see the white peaks of the, I think, Lutheran Seminary. And this is basically the first day's battlefield. This is where Major General John Buford, who selected the ground over here, and General Reynolds, who's got a big, huge equestrian statue out on the first day's battlefield. This is where these guys kind of held the line out here against the Confederates coming in from basically the area we were just at. And the fighting went closer and closer to the town, through the woods, through the creeks, across the fields, and then into the town itself. Some hand-to-hand combat over there. There's a big railroad cut through the landscape we showed a couple years ago. But yeah, no time to get nerdy about the battle now. We're gonna take the groceries back and kind of chill for the night. See, my dream vacation would just be spending like months out here so I could look at every building, every field, get a battlefield guide to take me everywhere. I get nerdy about Gettysburg. I try not to think about it when I'm not here though, otherwise I get too excited. Maybe I just get nerdy about anywhere that I go. I don't know, but there is something special about Gettysburg. Ever since I came here in 8th grade, been captivated. Something about this particular battlefield more than any other I've ever been to. It must be just that so much of it is preserved, which of course was the work of many generations. It's ongoing work for folks like the American Battlefield Trust, which I'm happy to be a member of, or well, a donor to anyway. And there's just so many legendary stories, like stories about this guy, John Burns, an ancient, crusty, ornery civilian who threw on his coat, grabbed his old War of 1812 musket, and came out to fight the Rebs in civilian clothes. Was it heroic? Yes, kind of. Tim Smith's got a great book about old John Burns. He's like a hero, but also like blown out of proportion into a legend. And then the town was kind of like not that happy. Like, why is this guy getting all the glory? Stories for days, monuments for days, lanes for days, fields for days, fences for days. Anyway, if you saw last year's videos and the ones from my breakdown in Gettysburg, and I think what, 2023? 22, something like that, and you already know why I love this place. I'm just sort of reveling in it today before the film festival starts and we get sucked into whatever fun-tivities happen out here. Hopefully the rain wets itself out right now. Here comes the storm. You see it all right there. And maybe tomorrow will dry up again. Anyway, just in case I don't get another chance, and boy, is it cooling down now out here considerably. I am now at the Virginia Monument. There's Robert E. Lee up there on his horse, looking back across the field towards that clump of trees and the monuments where we were this morning. I guess we've come full circle, or we will in a minute when I climb up the hill to Little Round Top to say farewell to the light and get ready for tomorrow. Thank you for hanging out with my overexcited self as I return to Gettysburg. It's hard to believe the high ground out there is basically a mile away across these fields. I cannot imagine just walking towards the cannon fire and the musket fire like, yeah, let's just walk that way, boys. It's crazy. What in the world were you thinking, old Robert E? What in the world were you thinking? Anyway, we've got a few more adventures to pull off here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania before we head back home to Southern California. But when we get there, we'll be shipping out Randomland hot sauce, these hats, my book. Hopefully we'll be getting some new stuff soon as well, car magnets and just weird stuff like that. You can get all that at randomland.com. You can also join the Patreon, keep the show on the road because it is America's 250th birthday and I'd like to be out on the road as much as humanly possible. We'll see what we can afford to do though once it comes May 1st. There's just so many places like this that I would love to visit this year with a little more preparation than today's off-the-cuffness. Great land, full of great, strange, unusual, interesting, and historic places. And I can't wait to see more of it on the road this year. Well, and every year. Because as far as I know, I'll be doing this for the rest of my life. And I'm okay with that. Before I say goodbye, though, let's just go up Little Round Top one more time. It's not like it's that far away. And plus, the view will be 1,000% worth it. Oh, yeah. It is beautiful out here. Clearly it rained a little bit in Gettysburg while we were on the way back. I don't know if you can hear that, but I can hear every kind of critter chirping and singing down in that pond. I can hear ducks quacking, geese honking, and I can see for miles. Whew. For me personally, this feels like it made the whole journey worth it. And it was one heck of a journey from Kansas City, switching planes around, 3 or 4 hour layover, the whole deal. Delayed flights, everything. But this is awesome. Anyway, I'm out of batteries. I'm out of space on the memory card. This adventure has been long and random enough. Randomland.com, like I said, or the links down below in the description for everything. And speaking of for everything, thank you for everything. Thanks for watching all the way to the very end. Thanks for sharing this video with a friend, subscribing, liking, doing all those things, but just for hanging out. You've done your duty. You can go home and sleep well. All right. I don't know what I was going to say. Just a little rainy. This is a pointless clip. I forgot what the point was. I probably won't stay in focus. You know, the wiper blades. There they come again. Oh, no, this is terrible footage.